So as you can see, my brake calipers are totally fucked. Okay, so ever since I've got the Pioneer, the brakes have been a pain in the ass. The front brakes drag or lock up, etc. Right now, this wheel's totally locked up, and that wastes a lot of power, and the brakes start to smoke, and that's not what you want on a machine that's this slow already. So I bought this M10 by 1 plug, and I'm going to try to use it to delete the brakes. I'm just going to pull the line off, screw the plug in there, hopefully, and it's got a little built-in O-ring on it. I don't know if that's going to handle brake pressure. I kind of doubt it. So I'm going to probably put it in there and test it, and if it works, I'll probably JB weld it into the brake master cylinder, and hopefully that'll just give me rear brakes. I think it'll work. So yeah, let's go ahead and give that a shot and try to delete the front brakes. That'll also save some weight. I can get rid of these big ass heavy calipers, and eventually I'll probably get rid of the rotors too once I get motivated enough to remove them. So yeah, that's this morning's project, is to delete the front brakes. Obviously, I'll still have rear brakes. I have the rear handbrake. This thing is so slow. I don't need brakes anyways. I just kind of downshift. But going downhill, sometimes it's nice to be able to, just kind of hit the brakes. So I'm going to try to keep the rear brakes functional. The reason I'm not fixing them is because these calipers are very problematic on the Pioneer 500s. They go out all the time for my friends, and they're pretty expensive. So yeah, I'm not going to spend money on something I don't need. That's just going to go out again soon. Okay, so that was mostly successful. So you can see that it is leaking a little bit with the plug in there, and that's because the surface isn't totally flat that the plug goes up against. But it's just barely leaking, and my rear brakes still work, and the front brakes are deleted. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull the plug out, put some sealant on the threads, let that dry while I go ahead and delete all the front brake hardware. But yeah, I think it's a good mod for a lot of you guys that mud ride on kind of flat terrain. Probably wouldn't recommend doing this if you ride in like West Virginia or something, but around Florida, you can get away without having front brakes on this little guy. But yeah, it's a little $5 plug or whatever it was on Amazon. Kind of expensive, I guess, for what it is. But it'll effectively delete your front brakes and keep your master cylinder mostly sealed up. Even without putting any goop on it, it'd probably be fine. It'd take forever to leak down. This is barely dripping. All right, as you can see, I've really outdone myself. Calipers deleted, rotors deleted, brake lines deleted. And now it is a Pioneer 500 Superleggera, much less unsprung weight for better handling at high speed. LOL, this thing doesn't go high speed. But yeah, so a lot less weight up on the knuckle, and I actually went through and got the brake line off there too, so there's no extra lines. And you can see that the plug is getting sealed in place with JB Weld. So hopefully no one ever needs to take that out because it's not coming back out. And yeah, that's a pretty good mod. I was a little worried that plugging this would lock down the master cylinder and you wouldn't get enough flow to the rear. But the rear brake takes so little flow because it's such a little tiny caliper that the rear brakes seem to work fine. Obviously, more testing required. But yeah, pretty good mod. I should have done that a long time ago because those things were really dragging. And those brakes are pretty heavy, honestly. It's a really thick, solid rotor. All right, so while I was working on the P500, I decided to go ahead and change the rear bearing. I was getting pretty shot. I need to upgrade these rear CV joints too. They're about to go. Probably should have done it at the same time. Anyway, pretty big bearing. It did come out in pieces, as expected. It was very dry and rusty in there. For all I know, that could be the original bearing, so not too bad. This thing's got 4,000 miles on it. As far as how I changed the bearings, I'm not very scientific about it. I just used the big socket right here to hammer the bearing out. And then I used the old race to hammer the new bearing in. And then of course, snap ring. Yeah, pretty simple. Nice big bearing though, I like to see it.